August 11th meeting of the Plan Commission. Can we have a roll call, please, Bethany?
Commissioner Curry,
Here.
Commissioner Krillenberger,
Here.
Commissioner Hurley, absent. Commissioner Jablonski,
Here.
Commissioner Cernovich,
Here.
Commissioner Willoughby is absent. Commissioner Unell is absent, and Commissioner Fiasconi is absent, and Chairman Cashman.
Next order of business is public comment for any non-agenda items. If there's anyone here who wants to talk about anything not on the agenda? Nope, seeing none. We'll move on. Next order of business are the approval of minutes from our July 14th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. Are there any requested additions or revisions to the minutes by any commissioners?
None?
None.
Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Curry,
Here. Approved.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Krillenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Aye.
Commissioner Cernovich,
Aye.
Chairman Cashman.
Aye. Next order of business are public hearings. We have one tonight. It's for case A-12-2021 for 149 East Ogden Avenue. It's a design review permit, exterior appearance and site plan review, and sign permit review to allow for exterior changes to the existing convenience store building and gas station canopy, and to allow for the installation of new signage for the Pride of Hinsdale located in the B3 General Business District. Is there someone here representing the applicant? Welcome. If you need to come up here and, do we need to swear in?
I do. Dan, last name Soltis, S-O-L-T-I-S. 30W 180 Butterfield Road. Warrenville.
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Can you give us an overview of the project?
Sure, my name's Dan Soltis, I'm with Chima Developers. Chima Developers is the real estate development arm of the Pride stores. So I report to ownership. We're part of Parent Petroleum. We've owned this site for, gosh, over 10 years now. So if you're familiar with it, you've seen, we've been in front of this commission probably 3 or 4 times now with some of the expansion. Tonight's presentation is basically to continue that. We would like to make building improvements on the exterior, which would include painting of the existing convenience store roof to black, removing the green old faded awnings and putting in new wood cedar pergola or trellis stained Cordova brown. And removing the Pride sign in our front window, and then adding a new one on the fascia on that side of the building. We also are proposing the modification to the MID sign, the corner sign. In many of our sites, and probably all of them in the last 6 months, where BP allowed us to actually change some of the hierarchy, and now we want to promote the Pride site, the brand. So we're flip-flopping the hierarchy on those on many of our sites, including the proposal of the one tonight. So that, I can go into that a little bit more as we get into some of the exhibits. The third item is we're also re-imaging the canopy fascias to BP's newest version. That includes basically just an improvement. It's the exact same green LED lighting. It's made a little differently from the housing and things like that, but there's no change in the ambient light. There's no change in the amperage on the new lighting. There's no change to the illumination. There's no change to any of those features of the new lighting. But I do have a photo of that new lighting. We just finished our site in St. Charles, Illinois. With that, we re-imaged Cicero, Lake County, our part of Lake County site. So we're doing those all in the next year. So this one is on the docket as well. So I'm here to answer any questions and hopefully make it as clear as we can here.
Great, thank you. Julie, any questions for the applicant?
My only question, First of all, the logo, I like how that's going to be further down on the sign. I think that looks nicer. Is if you have any plans for landscaping?
For the MID sign?
Yes, for the ground sign.
Since we're not changing any of that sign, we didn't propose anything. I don't believe I included anything additional on that. I know I'd have a landscape plan somewhere in here. I can make sure that what's on the current landscape plan is
Right.
I
in.
saw that, right. It's,
Maybe where if there was any landscaping added that you couldn't read
Right.
the urban counter.
right,
or,
that's
know,
true.
or
Just maybe
anything in
something to the side. But
Right.
other than that, it
Or the
seems like
BP now. Yeah.
you're just replacing a lot of signs with other signs.
Yeah,
nothing
yeah, so for the
major.
MID sign, all we're doing is we're taking the BP from the top, moving it down, and then we're bringing in a new Pride sign in that location.
And I think that looks better. And also the sign, the ground sign will be a little bit lower, correct?
Correct, correct.
So how tall would the ground sign be?
Shows it's 9'6". Well, let's see.
9'6"
feet.
going down
It goes
to
down.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it goes down 6 inches.
Ah,
It's reduced 6 inches in height. It went from
Yeah.
9'6" existing.
Here, let me,
to
yeah,
9
I'll
feet.
head over to the MID sign here and,
Yeah, see right there.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I was looking.
Oh,
at
I
the
see.
wrong one. Okay.
so right now it's currently 9'6", and we're gonna be reducing the height to 9 feet. So that 9'6" was approved back in 2011, I believe.
Right when the urban counter went in.
Right. So we're removing the urban counter sign. We're removing the small Pride oval, and then and then simplifying the sign with the two branded panels that we're showing there, or with the one new one and the one just being dropped.
I like the new plan much better, because you're right, it's simplified, and I like the logo, how that's in the middle of the brick.
Right. So like I said, the push has been, really promote the Pride as a brand. The urban counter is doing great. We're really proud of that. So I think we've established ourselves there, and
Right.
so that was some of the thinking behind that.
Anything else, Julie?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Jerry?
I really don't have anything. This is about as attractive as a convenience store, gas station can look. So thank you.
Thank you. Have you been to some of our newer built ones?
I do have a question. What is what's the guidance about colors on signage? Number of colors? I know black and white don't count. And maybe this was grandfathered, but we've got the blue in the Pride and the green and the yellow, and then a second shade of green. Is that something that was under consideration? I think it looks fine, but I want to make sure that we're not setting a precedent that is troublesome.
I considered it two different signs. I consider the Pride one sign and the logo a second sign. White does not count, black does not count, so I think we're okay.
That's fine with me.
That's just how I looked at it.
Well, that's
It's-
why I thought it's 3 plus white or black.
Right.
1, 2, well, there's a
So-
couple,
But
and again, I
three-
don't,
Green, dark,
So
and
BP's
yellow.
basically 3.
Right.
well, we, the Amita sign, we gave them a lot of grief because they had shades of
Yes.
colors.
Yeah, there was a whole
Right.
spectrum, and that was eliminated to just, 3 colors.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't want somebody to come in along and say, look at BP's got 4. We should have 5.
Well, what do you see as
Or
4? I
8.
see 3. I
I
see
see
yellow,
3.
light green, dark green.
And then, well, it depends on whether you consider this one sign. I mean, it's in one, is the same square footage as the existing layout. All the square footages are taken together. You ask about the total height of the sign. Again, I don't want to be overly persnickety,
Would those
and that's
specific
not
be
really my way. That's not
considered
my
2
role.
different signs because 2 different businesses?
I don't know how this has been handled in the past. It does say the code says the 3 colors per sign, but it clearly was approved in the past because you can see the existing sign. So there must have been an interpretation in the past to allow those sign faces to have different colors. And I think there's under 3 within each sign face. The question is that one sign? I don't think the code necessarily specifies.
Right.
So
I considered like the brick to be like the structure that's
backdrop,
holding
yeah.
it, the backdrop, right, which isn't counted toward your
Yeah,
square
we don't count
footage.
brick colors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, thank
That's
goodness.
good.
Or square footage.
Sure.
Just like technically like Union Church, oh, you weren't here last month, it's kind of like they have 3 signs on their structure, 3 different signs, so.
Okay, yeah, no, I just,
Right, it's-
I think it looks great. To build on the best looking convenience store sign we've ever seen. But just want to make sure that the next people that come along.
Well, I thought of Amita too, so I was thinking about that. I think they had a few more colors in there though.
Well, remember, it was a complete
Well, it was a
rainbow of
spectrum.
colors, yeah.
I think we came to the conclusion that there were an infinite number of
There's
colors.
been other signs that have come to the village that were like a rainbow and haven't made it to us because we basically pointed out to them. I did with Bethany.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly.
Okay, yeah, if we can, I don't know, acknowledge or recognize so that it doesn't come up in the future, that this appears to be 2 separate signs. And again, this is not my role to be this persnickety, but I do know that other people will come up and say, look at that sign. So, but
Exactly.
it's lovely.
Thank you.
Cynthia?
I agree. I think it's much improved. I think being a gateway between our 2 communities, I think it looks much better. I wish other places looked as good. 2 quick questions. The black on the roofing, is that a dull black? It's not going to be shiny black, is it? The metal roofing? I know it's black, and I saw the paint color. Sorry, I don't know if it's, and it seems in the drawing to be a matte.
Yeah, it is a
Finish.
matte. It is a matte. I'll confirm that. It's a Benjamin Moore black matte.
Oh, you do see matte? I'm sorry, I must have missed that.
That's Benjamin Moore, no. It doesn't have matte clarified on the drawing.
Okay.
I could, ownership, I can probably text them on here right now.
I'd hate to see it be a shiny black.
Agreed.
It does, the urban counter sign, the existing sign, then blends in even nicer with that roof.
Yes, it does. My other question is about the wood. Is it a treated lumber? Is it painted? The pergola, it looks to be a wood color.
It
It's a
is
stained
It's
wood.
a cedar,
Cedar, okay,
semi-transparent stain,
good.
bare, Cordova brown. I do have the color. Let me just flip over.
That's right, you can kind of see it in the drawing.
Yeah, I tried to match it up in there. C-Star. The middle one. I don't know how well you can see that. I can kind of blow it up
Okay.
here.
Good,
Okay.
yeah, it's nice.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. And that's
While
going to be
we're-
seating, right? That's going to be a seating area?
Yeah, we already do have the seating area on the west side.
In the west, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll pull up while we're talking about the elevations here.
While you're pulling that up, it's interesting, I never realized that the Pride was on that original sign. It's very small.
Whoop. On the MID sign, on the
Yeah.
corner sign?
I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, and,
You can see
and
why,
Where is it?
it's tucked in here,
Is it
right
here?
by the BP.
MID, main ID sign, the monument sign, I'm sorry, that's
I
a
think we usually refer to that as a monument sign.
monument,
but-
I'm sorry,
sign,
that's it's a trade name.
But that's, I never even
Acronym.
realized that was there back then.
Yeah, and
So I could
as
see why you'd want to rebrand things.
as I mentioned, we have that same oval at many of our locations, and
Okay.
we're changing all of them.
Okay, I can see why.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
so-
it looks, I look great. I think it's an improvement. It was an improvement
Good.
back when this was originally done. And now, we're taking another step and I think it looks even nicer. So
Thank you. Okay,
this
so.
is nice also where it's located. kind
And
of
thank you
gateway.
for such a thorough application.
this is very
You
nice.
gave us more than what we needed, and usually, otherwise, we're asking a lot of questions.
Oh,
But
no,
this
you're
was very
fine.
well done, thank you.
No, you're fine, thank you. Okay, and then,
Should we get a motion?
Sure.
There-
Thank you, appreciate it. Do I have, let's see here, do I have a motion to approve case A-12-2021 for 149 East Ogden Avenue, the design review permit, exterior appearance, and site plan review, and sign permit review as submitted.
So moved?
Second.
May we have a roll call vote, please, Bethany?
Commissioner Curry,
Aye.
Commissioner Krillenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Aye.
Commissioner Cernovich,
Aye.
Chairman Cashman.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Okay.
and good luck.
Thank you. Thank
What's
you.
the timeframe on getting the work done?
I think as soon as possible.
Okay.
So hopefully if the process goes as planned, we'll have everything ordered up and hopefully, starting.
Great, look forward to it.
Okay.
Thanks,
thank
good
you.
luck.
Low gas prices.
They're gonna be higher now with the improvements.
Premium
Yeah,
prices.
that's not his control. Okay, our next order of business are sign permit reviews. We have one tonight. It's case A-10-2021, 137 South Garfield Street, the Union Church of Hinsdale, installation of one ground sign with a bulletin board, and this was continued from our July 14th, 2021.
I think we need,
Oh, do we need to vote to close the public hearing meeting?
Yes, please.
Yes.
then we have Oak Street.
And then we have,
Do I have a motion to close the public meeting?
I'm off the thing, let me just write this so I
Okay.
can put it.
No problem.
Who made the motion?
Krillenberger made the motion. I hereby make the motion to close the,
Second.
Curry, second.
nice teamwork.
And
Street.
a roll call vote, please. Oh, did I?
Commissioner
Oh,
Curry,
sorry. Oh, yes, pardon me. I'm jumping out of order.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Krillenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
aye.
Commissioner Cernovich,
Aye.
Chairman Cashman.
Aye. Thanks, Julie. We're jumping out of.
Sure.
The poor speaker was at the poor speaker was at the microphone.
I'm glad you're
I don't know
back.
What happened to him?
Okay.
Good to see
Sorry.
you.
Yes, yeah, sorry. I was changing your agenda. Now, next is a
Fine.
public meeting, and this is for case A-27, 2021, for 531 North Oak Street, tentative and final plat of subdivision to allow the subdivision of one lot into two code-compliant lots in the R4 Single Family Residential District. And
Public hearing.
thank you. Good to see you again. Other than on Zoom.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a long one last year.
Oh, that was
So, yeah.
a marathon.
Yeah. I heard try to keep track of all those.
Several marathons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's come out next year. There'll be a transcript of everything you said. Say Cindy.
Welcome.
Can I go ahead and get started?
Sure. You ready, Bethany?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, well, good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Patricia Halikias, and I'm here on behalf of 531 North Oak LLC. We are requesting approval of a tentative plat and final plat of subdivision to subdivide one lot located at 531 North Oak Street into two code-compliant lots within the R4 residential single-family zoning district. The subject property, as you can see on the plat, currently has a single-family detached home on it. We're proposing to subdivide the existing 27,330 square foot lot into two code-compliant lots of approximately equal size. The existing house will remain on Lot 1, and Lot 2 will remain vacant there are no plans currently for any new construction. At this time, we're only proposing to subdivide the existing lot. There's no plans to demolish the existing home or to develop either lot. The new subdivided lot would remain vacant until sold to a new owner, and there are currently no plans to redevelop either of the lots. So we are providing all the requirements for the tentative and final plat while requesting a waiver of the submission of the final engineering, because we are currently not proposing any new development.
Right.
Obviously, the final engineering will be required for submission and approval at the time any new development is proposed. So that's basically what we're requesting tonight is subdivision of the lot into two fully compliant lots, and we'll continue to market them for sale. Thank you, and
Great.
if there's any questions.
Thank you. Cynthia?
No questions.
Jim?
No questions.
Jerry?
Nothing.
Julie?
No questions. Everything's code compliant. I don't see
Yeah.
any issues.
It's amazing that it was still there.
Yeah. It's been there for a
I
while.
went to the Lane School, and that must have been there back when I had friends living right across the street from that. And, you know,
Somebody's losing a playground though, a backyard.
I think there's one more through lot on Oak that goes towards the west. That it's hard to tell because there's a house on Oak, but it's a full lot that goes through a
Yeah.
full block in the middle of the block. And,
really?
you know, I always look at that, going, what a great place. You have like 2 backyards. It's huge. But thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve case A-27, 2021 for 531 North Oak Street, tentative and final plat of subdivision to allow for the subdivision of 1 lot into 2 code-compliant lots in the R4 Single Family District?
Brillenberger, so motions.
Jablonski, second.
May we have a roll call vote, please, Bethany?
Commissioner Curry,
Aye.
Commissioner Krillenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Aye.
Commissioner Cernovich,
Aye.
Chairman Cashman.
Aye. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, now, our next is a sign permit review, case A-10, 2021, 137 South Garfield Street, the Union Church of Hinsdale. Installation of 1 ground sign with a bulletin board sign, continued from our July 14th, 2021 meeting. Do we have to have a motion to reopen this?
No, because it's just a sign permit.
Okay.
There's no public hearing here.
Okay, sounds good. Welcome back.
Hi, well, thank you. I hope it's okay. I'm Sharon Olson. I hope it's okay if I start and then turn it over to Matt. I kind of wanted to do a regroup and just kind of fill in what we've been working on the last month. So, my name is Sharon Olson. I am a Hinsdale resident for over 35 years. I am a member of Union Church. I sit on the Board of Trustees, and I serve as chair of the Building and Grounds Committee, which means I get to do stuff like try to get the signs approved here at the Planning Commission. I do have to say we were here last month, and I was very humbled by that experience. And I do want to say thank you for having us back. We're going to try to do a little bit better this time. I want to say that there's so many great things about Hinsdale, but what we found what I've known is the greatest thing is the people and the neighborhood. And I feel the same way about our church. We have wonderful people. As a church, sometimes we look at our building as just a building, but it's made up of people and it's surrounded by neighbors. And I want to apologize to our neighbors who we inadvertently neglected last month. And I hope we can make it up to each and every one of them. We learned so much at the last meeting, and most importantly, to reach out and listen to our neighbors. I think we're better equipped to start over with a new proposal, and we appreciate the opportunity to do so. 1 week after the last Planning Commission meeting last month, we invited 13 homes that surround our church into our church. 8 properties were represented. We also had some of our church members and our ministry staff. I feel we got to know our neighbors better, and they were wonderful. We heard them, and we really listened. We showed them several ideas and discussed variations. They heard us and really listened. So we learned a lot about each other, and I think we're able to come up with a plan that satisfies the requirements of the village, but more importantly, meets the needs of our neighbors. Keep in mind that this sign is really the mission of our church. We'd like to be able to deliver a message. And so what I'd like to do is walk you through this process and what we've learned. The first attempt, the lighting wasn't clear, so we gave a package to you last meeting, and it was submitted incorrectly. The lumens were wrong, the color temp was incorrect. The sign was shown with mixed materials on the column and the base. It had a metal cornice and cap that were painted. There was confusion on the backlight versus halo light. We spoke to the neighbors and what they prefer. They prefer backlight. The size of the sign was questioned, and landscape around the sign was questioned and mentioned. So when we met with the neighbors, we presented a few new ideas to them, which we had drawn up by our sign company. One of them included attaching banners to the sides of the sign. And we learned from that the neighbors do not like our clutter on our lawn, that we have too many banners. And if you go by there now, you'll see a really big one that the children did at Vacation Bible School. But we learned that if we could make them more uniform, and use better materials and move the sign location north and on Garfield. So facing the middle school and on the north end of our lot, we wouldn't have as many objections. They would be very happy with that. So we also showed them some nighttime renderings. We showed them a graphic of the sign right in front of the church so they could get a feeling of scale. And we mocked it up at night. So we went out after our meeting, we stood on the lawn, we held up the light fixture, which I brought again tonight if anybody wants to see it. And we demonstrated the light level. We even looked at it across the street. We looked at it up close. We showed them the height. And we showed them the proportion and the overall impact. We also measured the typeface on the existing sign, which happens to be 2.5 inches tall. We were hoping for 4-inch letters so that it would be easier to read. We measured it and showed it to them, and there did not seem to be any problem with that. So after the Planning Commission meeting and after the neighborhood meeting, we have a new presentation to share with these revisions. You have the packet in front of you, and I just want to review it very quickly. I know you have all this information, but I think it's important to point it out. So the banners will be limited on the lawn and will conform to better and nicer mounting methods. Agreement has been made to move the banner signs to Garfield Street, and at present, our church has a committee right now that's drafting a new policy for the banners in order to make them consistent and meet the village and the neighbors' requests. We changed to one stone material for the base and the column. So we're using Indiana limestone, and it will be, we brought the sample in last time, it will be stone. The logo, the UCH logo on the column and the pier will be a bronze finish over aluminum.
You want me to put them on the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's from the computer you're scanning at right now.
I sent it to Bethany and had her distribute it.
Oh, okay, I didn't see them. Okay.
Did she had it on, it's probably somewhere, it's probably under there.
Thanks.
I was out for a run Sunday and I couldn't believe it.
Hard to argue.
Okay, that's great to be able to see it. Okay, so we changed to one stone material for the base and the column. The logo, the UCH on the column itself, will be a bronze paint over aluminum instead of the acrylic that we showed last time. The top cap will be solid limestone. The cornice will be limestone. The bulletin board will be changed to a matte finish instead of a glossy finish. We think that'll help the neighbors feel less glare. And the sign will be backlit behind Union Church of Hinsdale United Church of Christ. It will be a backlit sign, so it will simply glow. The lighting is identified in your packet, and it's revised to 2700 degrees Kelvin. It is top lit only as a graze optic. The cut sheet is included in your booklet, so I was told that some folks were having a hard time trying to understand it, and I'll try to explain it quickly. The cut sheet is marked in red. We're showing that we're using 2700 degrees Kelvin high output. The photometrics on the plan, on the sheet, are giving the information for 4000 K. So we have to use a multiplier in order to figure out what the light level for 2700 K is, and that multiplier is 0.73. So if you take the lumens per foot of 209 lumens and you multiply it by 0.73, you get 152.57 lumens per foot. We have 6 feet of light, and therefore we'll have a total of 915.42 lumens. At present, the old sign has a 3-foot long F12 fluorescent lamp which is 2,400 lumens in just 3 feet. So not only are we lowering the lumen level, we're stretching it out and just showing it right at the top of the sign. The old sign was 2 foot 9 inches by 3 foot 5 inches tall for the lit portion only, not the whole height. That equals 9.625 lit square feet. The new sign is 6 foot and 1/2 inch by 2 foot 2 and 1/2 inch. So that's a total of 13.25 square feet. We're asking for a difference of 3.625 square feet of lit. We were asked by the neighbors and by the commission to show this sign lit at night, to show it proportionally on the property, and to be more clear with the lighting. Yes, we can. So we also have that in your packet. I think we've been able to demonstrate it, plus we did it in real life, in real time with our neighbors. When they saw what we're doing, basically taking a vertical sign and turning it on its side and putting the light 2 foot lower than where it is now, they all seem to be in favor of that new look. I'll turn it over now to Matt Klein, who is also one of our church members, and he can go through the rest of the details.
Matt Klein, also trustee in the church. Sharon's basically stolen my thunder, so she's basically covered the territory. We've again presented the sign. Sharon described it. It's the changeable message board is permitted as a bulletin board. It's permitted as a matter of right. The sign's designed to be compatible with the church structure and complement the materials of the church. We've basically picked up the stone from the base. Someone asked if we could bring in a sample of the stone again. We weren't able to get the actual stone here, but I've got pictures of the stone if you want to see that. The stone is in Indiana, and we weren't able to arrange for it to get short notice. This is the pictures of the material that we're using. It's Berkshire, which is it's a slice limestone. It is true limestone, and that's what the base and the column will be made of. Again, Sharon described how the nameplate at the top and the logo will be constructed and made. The sign is the major difference between our existing sign and the new proposed sign is it's oriented horizontally rather than vertically. We've got several views of the sign in the package that we presented to you, and views of what it will look like, from adjacent properties. From across the corner at night, the existing sign at night, the bulletin board portion of the sign overlaid on the existing sign at night. So again, we've designed the sign to be visually compatible with, particularly with the structure of the church. We've used the materials from the church. We've used the orientation, the horizontal orientation of the banding of the limestone caps. The height, size, proportion, scale, texture, colors and shape of the sign all are meant to be compatible with our building and the surrounding properties in the area. We've emphasized choice of high quality materials, the limestone, revision to the limestone capping on the cornices particularly. I want to point out that the sign is a one-for-one replacement of our existing sign. something that, type of signage in relation to a church that's extremely important. Very traditional for a church to have a sign that announces the, time, date of services, the, topic of the service. It's very important to the mission of our church, like other churches, to have that nature of signage. We don't, again, it's in the location of the existing sign, so any impacts of it, there should be no change in impact from the new sign relative to the old sign. Exact same location, much less lighting on the sign, slightly larger lettering so we can better communicate the message so that somebody is looking at the sign can more easily get the message that we're conveying. Again, I think Sharon covered most of what I was going to say, frankly. Sign will meet all village standards, and we've designed it so to have as small impact as possible on surrounding property. I think we've done with the help of the neighbors and the questions from this board and the historic preservation, I think we've provided a extremely good sign for that can convey the messages that we as a church need to announce and yet meet the standards and needs of the community and the community members. So thank you for that questions.
Thank you, Matt. I think we'll ask some questions as commissioners, and we'll see if anyone would like to speak. Is there any citizens? So, Julie, do you want to start?
Yes. I attended the neighbor meeting as an observer, and one item, hot topic, was the temporary signage on the property, kind of scattered all over. The neighbors kind of felt like it wasn't uniformed, and there were some questions about temporary signage. I was wondering if Bethany, could you explain that to us, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I put together a preliminary analysis here of how our code allows for temporary signage and what would be allowed for a property like this one. What our code says for temporary signage is that the maximum allowed area is kind of taken out of what you'd get for your permanent signage. So in the case of a temporary ground banner, if you're allowed 50 square feet for the permanent monument sign, whatever is left over that the church doesn't use out of that 50 square feet for the permanent portion, you get left over for what you can use for that temporary signage. You can also post that signage for a period no longer than 60 days if it's, temporary ground banners like what we're talking about. And that can be extended if you have a sign permit submitted with the village. That's in theory to allow someone to have temporary signage while they're going through the application process. Do you have any questions about how that calculation is?
So the calculation is basically just ground signs, or would that include wall signs?
So wall signage would be done separately. I know the church does have some existing wall signage, but it's like towards maybe the parking lot on the side of the building. I don't have the actual size calculations for that, but I believe, so we'd have to look at how much they'd have left once we calculate that. But the wall signage would be a little bit separate. Same requirement of you can't post it for longer than 60 days. But they would potentially be allowed temporary signage, whatever is left after you reduce from 100 square feet. They get 1 square foot per building frontage up to a maximum of 100 square feet. So we'd have to do a little bit more thorough analysis of what they'd be allowed if it was like a wall banner.
Yeah. What we're before you on, we've got 13 point something square feet in the bulletin board. The white area that's middle, that is permitted as a matter of right. It's not affected by whatever calculation. It's not included within the 100 feet. It's permitted. We have a right to do it. The portions of this sign that may or may not affect the calculation would be the logo of the sign, the Union Church of Hinsdale, which is, I want to say it's about 2.5 square feet, something like that. and the UHC symbol, which is about 1.5 square foot. So, well, we're concerned about what the neighbors have issue with as far as the temporary signage. Trustees have committed to concern because the signage on the site has been it's a little bit gotten a little bit out of control of the church ourselves. So we've got a lot of organizations, a lot of segments of the church that each have posted their own signage at times. All the signs are important, but at the same token, we realize that there is a restriction on how much and what it should look like for the benefit of our neighbors and our own property. So we are starting that process. It's summer, the church, there isn't as much church activity as there normally is. But we actually had a meeting of trustees last night, and that was one of the topics that came up, is that we would be discussing how signage, temporary signage on the church would be regulated by the church. Obviously, we have to give respect to the village rules, but first, from our perspective, we have to get it under control on our side, as who wants temporary signage or not. But that really is not what we're before you on. What we're before you on is a one-for-one replacement of our existing corner sign. It's decrepit. It's a nice sign, or at least was once. I mean, it was a nice-looking sign that appeared. But we're actually, I believe, presenting a sign that is more picking up the style of our church building than the old sign did. The base was limestone, as is the base of the church. Our new sign, more of the masonry on the sign will be the limestone to pick up more of it. The limestone caps and cornices, again, pick up lineage, horizontal lineage that's on the existing church building as well. We think we've put together a very good sign, and we'd ask your support on it.
I'd like to thank the church for hosting a neighborhood meeting. The church was kind and welcoming, and I feel that the neighbors, it was nice to be able to exchange ideas, especially after going through a pandemic. One of the neighbors said, well, you're here, the church is here, the members of the church a few hours a week, but this is our home for 24 hours a day, and I think that's important to remember. So I think some things came out of that meeting, but maybe not everything. The sign does meet the physical section of the code, but I'm still concerned. I know you're probably tired of me saying this, the standards and the regulations of fitting in. My biggest concern, I think the neighbors are still not fully satisfied with what was presented. And as I asked at the last meeting, would you want to be sitting on your front porch and look at the sign? I think some of the feedback from the neighbors, it's too big, it's too bright, it's too commercial. It doesn't fit in with the church. You have a beautiful church. Maybe that is what should be highlighted. One of the standards for sign permits, visual compatibility, quality of design and construction. Will it detract from the value or enjoyment of neighboring properties or unduly increase the number of signs in the area? And I think you're addressing that with the temporary banners. But I still feel it's an impact on the neighbors. It's a historic district. It's a beautiful building. It's a busy intersection. There's just a number of things. And I was hoping you would come back with a design that, in my opinion, fits in more with the style of the church, the architecture of the church, make it more welcoming. Sometimes bigger is not better, a billboard. I don't feel like it belongs there. And I was hoping you would have another design, maybe brainstorm some more. I understand you've been working on this for 2 years, but I think it still needs some more work. And I still feel it's going to be a big impact on the neighborhood. You can see it from more than one house. I've been walking around the neighborhood at 9:30 at night, and you can see it from quite a few houses. The lighting is bright. I understand that it's going to go down to be a warmer light, but still, bringing commercialism into a residential neighborhood. I would think people coming into Hinsdale, traveling north on Garfield, traveling south on Garfield, the first thing you notice is the beautiful bell tower. I mean, I just feel like this sign is detracting from all of that. Have you considered another design?
Well, if you allowed us to have additional 4 feet of height, we could put something that would track the bell tower, but that's not permitted under the code. We're at 6 feet, which is what's permitted. You know, we're actually less in height than our existing sign, which is 8 feet. The sign that we're proposing, I suggest, is actually much more compatible with the style of the church. You know, it's hard to pick up the arches, but we've picked up the horizontal lines, we've picked up the materials. I think those are the primary things that you would notice in relationship. If again, to pick up the curves and arches, and we would need additional height of the signage, which the code doesn't allow. So I think taking the code requirements and the design, I think we've done an admirable job of design. And again, it's a one-on-one replacement for the signage that's there. You know, the sign that's there, and if I can figure out, you know, it was a nice-looking sign at one time, but it is falling apart.
I understand that.
The board does not allow us to provide a message that's very readable as you walk by or drive by. It is lit. The lighting we're proposing is much less. The stone base on it, which would be very similar to the materials we're proposing, the current sign is falling apart. We need to replace it. You know, providing the horizontal-oriented sign, again, actually, I suggest, has much more visual compatibility to our structure than our old sign does, nice as it was. Nice as it was once. I suggest we have done a very good job of trying to be compatible in design and materials and texture and size with our building, which is a large building. The homes around us are large buildings. Yes, perhaps you can see it from across the street, but by the time you get across the street, you're really quite a distance from the sign. The illumination will be much below the illumination level that's required by the village. The size is well within the size that's permitted by the village code. The design, we've made an effort to be compatible with our building, which is what your code requires. And we're members of the community too. You know, Sharon, I, Lori, Sue, we all live in the community. We're part of this community as well. So we want our building, of which we're trustees and other officials in our church, to be representative not only of our church but of the community. And it's very important to the church and the mission of the church to be able to have signage to convey, announce what the sermon for Sunday may be, other events in the church life, you know, things that are specifically provided by, by the code. And what we're not talking about the main portion of the sign, because that main portion of the sign is permitted and the square footage is not included in the size. We're going to do it as good neighbors on our part to do a better job of controlling signage on it. But what we're talking about is the design of the base of the sign and the vertical column. And I think we've done about as good a job combining the needs of the church, the design of the church, something that will fit into the neighborhood and meet the rules of the village. So we'd ask your support. If you have other questions.
Any other questions, Julie?
No, I still don't feel it meets the standards and regulations. That's my opinion, because it's detracting from the value and enjoyment of neighboring properties.
Are there any neighbors here?
Well, I want to finish us first, and then, yes, I definitely want to hear what the neighbors have to say.
Okay, well, I'm intrigued by the fact
Yeah.
that you went to a neighbor, the neighbor meeting, so.
Right.
Well, I live near there too. I
She's a
can't see
neighbor.
the sign. I can't see the sign, but I observed.
Yeah, we have
Gary?
three neighbors of the church here. You know, Nancy wrote a supporting, Jim is across the corner, and one of your board members.
Julie, we know from her time on the plan commission in the past. Jerry, do you have questions?
Well, I've got a couple thoughts, and maybe they'll turn into questions as I speak. As I listened to the community last week, and I've heard about the meeting, the big concern people has isn't your sign. This sign's fine. I'm ambivalent about it. Could it be better? Yes. The big problem is this.
We
You
agree.
shouldn't be laughing. That's
No,
illegal.
we
That is
agree.
a
I
hundred-
was shocked when
But
I
it's
saw that
still
up there,
there.
I'm sorry.
It's still there. Was there something?
That was done by the children of the
Doesn't
church.
matter.
They-
Doesn't matter
Penny-
who installed
Penny
it.
Johnson, who was the
Right.
head of that unit, met with the village and had an agreement with the village that that may stay up until the 30th, when school starts, I believe. So,
Okay.
you know, we on our part, that was a surprise when it went up. I know Sharon and I were
Shouldn't be a
both dismayed
surprise,
by
though.
it, but
It shouldn't be a surprise when people put 192 square feet of plywood in front of the sign that you're saying is so important to communicate to the community. And I'm listening to Bethany. She's telling me you're allowed 100 square feet of sign, including your ground sign. And
think
you've
it's
got
50.
100, no, it's 100 square
Yeah,
feet for the
50
whole
times two,
property.
yeah.
Oh,
right?
50
yeah,
times
we-
50.
100 feet plus what we might have in a
Okay,
bulletin board.
so
but,
it's still 192.
For ground signage, just to clarify, the preliminary analysis that I did for what you'd be allowed for temporary ground signage is roughly about 45 square feet.
Okay.
For
this is-
temporary
This
ground
is
signage.
192.
Well, and that would never be allowed because you cannot use wood as a temporary
Well,
sign.
that too. I'm
That
just
too.
talking
Right.
about the size. And I was out walking around just like some of us have, asked a neighbor what they thought about the sign. They really weren't that upset
I
about it.
would ask you to separate your concern about
I'm
that sign
talking-
from the
I'm
permissibility.
talking about a
of our-
holistic approach to a problem you have with the community. They care about all the ground signs. I don't think they really care about this. And Sharon mentioned you're gonna have a policy to address how you
Yes.
install signs, so you don't have these things come up randomly to adjust the village code. I would really have a lot of problem voting for this sign, which I really don't have a problem with, until I see your plan, how these things don't spring up without Sharon knowing about it. That seems impossible to me. And I'm done.
Jim? Questions, comments?
Focusing just on this sign, I like the cornice. It does seem to be visually compatible. I guess I share your concern about that sign, although the message is delightful.
No problem with the message. I like compassion.
I like to think we're all compassionate
Yeah.
people. I don't know, focusing just on this sign, and I'm pointing at the sign that is in the package. It looks good, visually compatible. The cornice materials look great. I think the horizontal orientation is good. So I'll stop there.
My turn?
Thanks, Jim. Cynthia?
I too was shocked to see the sign, the temporary sign, so I don't want to further belabor the point. A surprise to me that when you're looking for approval on this, that would be allowed to be put up and that there would be humor associated with it. I have a question. The driveway, do you by any chance know, Matt, when the driveway was added, the circular in the
circular
front?
driveway, I think when the education building was, which was right around 2000, maybe 1990, somewhere between 1990 and 2000.
Between 1990 and 2000, and the black light poles that
Those
line,
bollards, those were about
Yes.
2 years ago, I think.
Those have been there for 30 years, we renovated them recently.
Oh, okay.
That was,
because I grew up here, I do not ever remember seeing those, so maybe when you moved them to LED or something, but I never, must admit,
Yeah.
There
well,
were metal halides, they were brighter, they were metal, they were modern, they didn't go with the church hall.
they were low, weren't they? Were they?
most of them were off their foundation, so some of them didn't work, so we kind of had to.
So this was a replacement light, it was a fixture, okay. When I look at your property, I think that, well, first of all, I grew up here.
Sure.
And Union Church is a pinnacle, kind of a monument in our downtown. You have the good fortune and probably the misfortune in cases like this, that the church is recognized and should be respected architecturally and visually. You have literally no green space except for that one corner of your property. You have parking lot, you have hard space. The courtyard, as I recall, when I was young, was more green space than it is now. I think at one point there might have been a small garden, and I ask that, I know you have the big sign on the back of the church. I would love to see a garden, a meeting place, benches out there, somewhere that you may draw young people who are leaving the junior high or the middle school. People can gather outside. I don't see that you have much attractive garden space around
We
the
actually
church.
have that in two places. We've got a memorial garden right at the end of the church. I don't know if it shows on here. Let me see if I can find a picture that would show. Yeah, in this picture to the right of the sign behind the foliage at the end of the church underneath the Garfield, there's a memorial garden. It's, well, it's not as a quiet place, but it has several benches and seating area, and it's, you know, reasonably well maintained. The close, which is inside the courtyard to the, I don't know, I'm pretty sure we do not have a picture of that. No.
Is this picture in that package?
It is, yep.
This one would be helpful if you can bring this one up.
Okay, yeah, that would be before, once I,
Right.
okay.
It's basically part of the staff analysis.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to, oh, there it goes.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, parking lot to the top left. There's the interior space, there's a walkway, circle drive, and then the walkway between the entry of the sanctuary, the narthex, and the small chapel. The interior courtyard there has several benches, some chairs, and a wall that's seating height. We're actually having outdoor service with the 907 service, which is primarily oriented to kids. So, you know, some people sit out there, some people stand, but we actually have a service in that area. You know, we actually have more green space than you would visualize, because we have the area at the corner of Garfield and Third. We have area to the north of the chapel that I believe we own from north of the parking spaces and the church maintenance garage, plus on the Garfield side. So, yeah, we don't have as much green space as we would like, obviously, but we do have green space.
That green space is like 80 by 80 in the south corner. It's huge.
Yeah, it's gigantic space at the corner behind the sign. We're
And I'm
having
sorry, Matt,
services out
where
there
is
for
that?
much of the spring.
The big green space in the lower left-hand corner of the lot. It's probably 80 or 100 tall and about.
Yeah, it's, the area behind the sign is very large.
The green, just the grass part,
The grass part, yes.
where you were proposing a park of some sort.
I was just suggesting that rather than detracting from that with a sign, a lighted sign, and we had talked about possibly you moving it to another area with your listing of services and data that you want people to be able to see. It seems, that sign seems to distract from the green space as far as I'm concerned.
Our existing sign's been there, it's been there for about 70 years. We're trying to replace it in the existing location. For people that are traveling by the church, it's a sign. I mean, it's meant to convey a message and convey, you know, that's consistent with the church's mission, that we want people to be able to see it. They want to know when the services are. Yeah, there are other places we could put a sign, but as far as a location that is visible to be in a location that allows us to convey the message that we desire to convey. When the services are, what the service is about, that's the best location in our view for that purpose. You know, there are, you know, that's the closest to the entry to the main church, or main chapel of the church, main sanctuary of the church. You know, as far as providing that information.
Grace Episcopal Church, which was the church that we attended, which is just a half a block off of, and also in the historic district, seems to have done a nice job of identifying the church without having to have the services listed. Now, that's your choice to wish to do that, but I believe their listing is on the driveway parking lot.
Well, we have the corner, and that's, you know, where the
You wanna use
most,
the corner.
you know, important view of the church is. A church that faces a street, yeah, I mean, they're going to put the their signage in front of the church. You know, the Methodist church, you know, has the sign at the corner of 55th and Garfield. I think I've, you know, submitted those around before. The Lutheran church, which is on First Street, again, their sign is on the corner in front of the church. So, I mean, the street corner is a very common and appropriate location for a sign, for it to be visible and for it to be able to convey, you know, the message of the church, which today's life, the ability of the church to convey that message is very important. Even the village is deemed that the corner location is important to conveying message. I mean, the village has two signs at the across from Village Hall out here. They're on two different corners that they use to convey the message. So again, the location on the corner, I would suggest, is appropriate and important.
The only thing that I would say is that even with the Hinsdale sign, seems to mimic our village, what our village.
It really doesn't
Which is-
pick up much of the Village Hall, but it does, you know,
It
it's a
doesn't,
very
but
nice
it's a
sign.
historic sign, whereas I look at a United Methodist, even the Seventh-day Adventists, Redeemer Lutheran, they're more modern-looking signs. I think that's my greatest objection, is that although you've made a good attempt using materials, your sign appears more modern to me than the building. And that's just
You
a
know,
personal view.
It's hard to build something new that looks old. It's not impossible, but that we've picked up features of the older structure so that to try and be compatible in style. I mean, we've picked up the materials and again the primary features of the design.
Thank you.
You need to come over here because people
Sure.
can't hear it at all. Thank you.
It's recorded, so.
Okay.
It's on TV. And streaming
Okay, so
and recording.
not nervous at all now, thank you.
Sorry. Matt's back there zooming in on you.
It was a purposeful design. So we interviewed several different companies and looked at several different designs. They were all modern. We have a modern logo. Our new Union Church of Hinsdale logo is modern. We're a changing church. We are reinventing ourselves. We're trying to grow. We're a very old church that had 3,000 members 20 years ago, and we're down to 250. So we are trying purposefully to come up with a design that blends but stands out. We don't mean any disrespect to the neighborhood. We don't want to do anything that would look hideous or monstrous. So we're trying to work within the parameters of sign dimensions. We've toned it down. Now don't forget, at a church, there's a ton of committees that have to look at every single thing we do. And sign after sign has been rejected, to the point where our senior pastor said, I'm going to step out of this. You guys make the decision, because it's been going on and on. So we finally came up with something that works with our logo, that works with our materials, and that can show the message that we want to share. We won't need 192 lineal feet of plywood signage if we have the space to put a message up. So hopefully our sign can grow with our church, and you guys will be more accepting and open to the fact that it is going to be slightly less Gothic in nature, because Gothic isn't really where we're going now, and we want the sign to be there for years to be able to pass along what we're trying to do.
And I thank you for answering that. I just would suggest when you look at St. Patrick's Cathedral, if you look at churches in cities, they didn't seem to have to change their sign logos or their Old English writing to attract people to the church. And my question is, do you feel a sign is going to increase your parishioners?
No, and that's been done. The logo has changed. That's beyond us. It is what it is. It's been that way for years. I don't know, 5, 10 years now. And the Old English logo that's on there now isn't in any of our stationery, any of our website. The message that we're putting out there is not the only message. It's not. You know, we'll have a message up there, maybe talking about the sermon, maybe something nice like compassion, love, like we have now. It's not just about 9 o'clock, 10:05 or whatever. You know, we want to be able to share something that we're trying to teach in the church. And to be able to have that length, to be able to do it is going to be very helpful. So it's not, I don't feel that it's too modern because we've tried to be cohesive with the materials, but we also can't do Old English letters and expect kids to be able to read them or adults to be able to see them while they're driving by. It needs to be a message that can be clear and seen and heard.
Thank you.
Could I add something to what Cynthia's comment about the garden? I think that would be a great idea. You know, there's several areas in Hinsdale where they have a sign. I'm thinking of the one bank that's on 2nd Street on the corner. They have a ground sign. I think this is what Eve wanted to do when they were in front of us a couple years ago, and they had to come back to us 3 times. So it's not just you guys. But were
Garden of
you?
Remembrance, that's on Harris Bank.
No, not in Harris Bank. What's the bank
Is
that's?
that US Bank?
US Bank, yes, thank you. But where there's a ground sign, it's smaller in size. I think US Bank, I think they have a clock out there, but it's surrounded, it's flanked by benches. And then they have a garden in front of it. I would think something like that would be a wonderful way to attract attention and send the message, gather.
I agree.
Well, maybe not during a pandemic, but something like that. If I were a parent and looking for a church and saw something like that and saw the kids out there, that would, just like when you have service out there. And I have heard, well, you know, it's nice to be outdoor. People can see you worshiping out there. Maybe you should go that route. Make it more of like a seated area or a bench. You know, it doesn't have to be a wooden bench. Smaller sign. You know, I could see the middle school kids, who I know can be busy in the neighborhood at times, but sitting out there enjoying it. You could have a place to put your church pamphlets if anybody chose to take one. It's a very busy area for people walking. I could, you know, people go walk to downtown to do their shopping and especially to go to dinner now. I think something like that would fit in really nice.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't have any examples.
I have a few questions, and then we'd like to hear if anyone would like to speak. The first, so it does not appear that anything like the structure of it changed. The masonry veneer is a thin veneer adhered to a sign box?
Well, it's
Is that
not very
correct?
thin, it's about 2.5 inches thick, so it's real masonry. It isn't like the 1/2 inch thick that's a veneer that you've seen some places. This is about 2.5 inches thick.
But it's not sitting on a foundation. It's attached to
It
this
is
sign box.
sitting on it isn't sitting on a 6 foot by 2 foot concrete foundation that goes down 6 feet. It's on 2 pylons based on the additional weight of the cornice. We'll probably have to increase the size of the mason, or the columns that would support. We might have to go to a foundation, but that, it really isn't part of the design review. We're really talking about the compatibility of the sign
Well,
with the
that's-
structure, so.
In my mind, it's an important part.
Well,
because-
it's important whether the sign's gonna hold up or not. We have to do what's gonna hold up the sign, but I don't think it's not a part of the sign that's ever gonna be seen.
No, but the sign itself, I mean, all these examples you showed us, these are true masonry structures with a sign that's basically a sign box that's part of them, supported by that. I just have really concerns of the quality of this. So it's basically thin masonry adhered to the sign box. Because it says here, you know, pole cover is how it describes the limestone Berkshire textured veneer, is a pole cover.
Right, that's what the specification of it is, but just look at the picture of it, it's about 2.5 inches thick. We had the sample of it here last month.
Right, we saw it.
It's very heavy. It's not,
I'm familiar with the material.
yeah, it's a good material.
Below the sign box, there's no dimension, or there's some reference in text, but how thick is the coping that's on the base? There's no dimension on it. There's no overhang indicated. This was what was previously a piece of metal. Do you know what the thickness of that is?
Yeah, we replaced it with a limestone at your request.
But how thick vertically?
That's. No,
You have dimensions on the cornices, but not on the coping on the base.
I think it's on here, but there are a lot of dimensions on here. And, it's not on this. Based on dimension of something the same size on it, looks like it's about 1.5 inches thick. Might be more than that. But it's a true band of limestone between the base of the sign at the base of the column.
I think the proportions of it are not appropriate. I mean, if you look at your existing sign, the base that you have, you know, currently on that masonry base is what I would expect would aesthetically look better. I think it's so thin that it's almost visually non-apparent. So you refer to the coping and the cornice as limestone, Indiana limestone, but what type of finish would that be? I'm guessing probably not a textured finish like this sample. Is it cut
No,
limestone?
It's cut limestone that, I don't know that we have a specific specification for that.
Rough cut, okay. And,
The top is rough cut?
I mean, typically, cut limestone is smooth.
Are you talking about the
The top
Like-
piece and the piece at
You're
the.
showing a coping on the bottom here
Yeah.
with no thickness dimension,
As smooth as is the corner.
as is the cornice.
Those are all smooth. I thought you meant the
Okay,
block, yeah.
okay,
And
so,
that bottom base piece is about 12 inches high above grade before the sign starts. You wanted it a little bit lower so that the light wouldn't be in.
oh, yeah, I'm fine with the height of it. To me, I just think the coping on it is way too thin. I mean, I think it's a terrible look. I really do not like this cornice on top of the metal sign box. I think that'd be a really terrible look. You're basically taking a piece of masonry and supporting it by the sign box.
It's a design nightmare, agree, but it's something that we were asked to do, so we were trying to do it. And
Has to do by whom?
requiring our sign company to construct a frame inside the sign to hold that weight. So, and I think visually, consensus was that was something that we did desire. The portion above the brown.
I mean, I personally think that would look terrible, and it'd be better not to have anything there than have, basically
Like
your
the
nice
Daniel
sign box.
Lutheran's,
I mean, just
sign
on the
box.
good side, I mean, I'm fine with the sign box.
Yeah.
I think I understand the logo because what is it, on your east side where you have the drop-off there and you have dimensional lettering on the masonry walls and everything. I think this seems to tie in with that typeface and everything, and I think that's fine. The bulletin board is fine. I appreciate the extent you've gone with the neighbors as far as the lighting. I think the change of the lettering that's on the column or the pole cover is better. But I really have concerns about the quality of this. I mean, the sign we just saw earlier tonight for a gas station, that was a masonry structure with the sign boxes attached to it. Every example you showed us here, these are masonry signs on foundations with sign boxes. This is thin masonry veneer attached to a metal sign. And I just think it's a really cheap look, and I just don't think it's appropriate for a historic building. This is rated as significant in the Robbins Park District, so it's a very important building to the village. And to me, it's in the details I have issues with. The geometry, the size, all those other things, but I'm just worried that if this is constructed, it will end up looking cheap and will not be in the quality of these other ones you've shown us. And I just think you have such a beautiful church. I understand what you're trying to accomplish, and I just think, you know, you're close, but those details could be better, and you'd end up with a better product. So that's really... one thing, the Gray's lighting, it's just hard to tell on here because it's not really dimensioned, but it shows on the side elevation as being coming out from the sign box. I'm guessing it's a couple inches. So is the bulletin board recessed into the sign box, or is it, does it extend out in front of it?
So I don't know if you can see on that photograph, there's like a silver frame, it looks like. The light fixture sits behind the frame,
Right.
above the mat.
So this wording, like this background, Sharon, would that be basically flush with the dark sign box?
Yes.
And then the gray is out in front of it so it can illuminate over the surface? Okay, okay. Sounds good. Those are all my comments, questions. Is there anyone here from the community that would like to speak on this, to this matter? Thanks, Matt.
Nancy Cox, I'm the neighbor directly to the east.
Oh, thanks. So we did get your
You got,
email.
I'm not going to read this into the record.
Yes, no, I appreciate you sending that in. And Bethany, and even today, you prompted us, the IT department of the village has been testing that email address. And I think it now works because I got a test email from the village.
Yeah, so did I.
Somehow it was not working.
I come from the field of linguistics, so that's why there's all this verbiage in here. But I wanted to see if there was a good fit between the meaning that the church makes and the form that we use on this sign. So that's why I went into this, the history of the church, and I see the theme of coming together again and again and again. These decisions being made to unite with other congregations, and the determination to welcome diversity, and that these themes remain part of Union Church. I looked at a lot of signage, and it seems like it's all over the place when you look at various churches around town. Sometimes it's a particular problem if the name is long, and here Union Church of Hinsdale is a long name. So I looked at, what would happen if you put it vertically? What happens if you put it horizontally? Some churches have cut their name in half. I don't particularly like that look. So I like this arrangement where the sign runs horizontally rather than vertically. I saw one case in which the name of the church is squished together, and it seems to diminish the name in importance. I'm not crazy about that idea either. So I just felt this vertical arrangement was good. when I get up to the part about line breaks, you're probably wondering what's wrong with this woman.
Not at all.
It's because to a linguist, there's a close relationship between poetry and signage. That can be your assignment for next week, to read some poetry. But you want things concise. Line break is a choice. It's something a poet makes a decision about in order to convey a certain meaning. You might want concord, you might want discord, if you're playing with that kind of thing. In this case, we want concord, and we want the text to ride along the natural breath of the speaker. You also want a silence after the title. It gives people time to think, to absorb the story, and so on. The font, I know the Gothic font you're talking about. I can read that style. I like it. I prefer the modern font here. The community is multicultural now. And I've worked with a lot of refugees. I've worked in the school systems as a volunteer, working with children who have no English at all. It's hard enough for them to master the English, let alone to master different font styles. And the older I get, the more I like those large print books. You know,
Don't we all?
I don't mind this at all, and it's the direction I'm going.
Okay.
I had a question about the bulletin board, Sharon. Were you thinking of mixing 4-inch and 2-inch at all, or just it will all be 4-inch? Okay, I looked at that just because I was thinking about hierarchy. Sometimes the size can vary to indicate a hierarchy of the ideas. The code, I'm not going to comment on that. That's your job. I do want to thank Sharon for the meeting that she ran. She did a good job, gave us a lot of new information. We got our ideas out there and our concerns, and she listened. I have to say I feel it's really important for neighborhoods to get together, to talk. A lot happened there that was positive just by us being together. And it's a real plus now that we have the name of someone to contact. So many times things have been wrong, or we see a crime in process or something, and we don't know who to call other than the police. So we're glad to know Sharon. Maybe she's not so happy about this, but it's a good thing for us to have a contact person in the neighborhood. And I'm going to stop there, and you can go on to your bigger issues.
Okay. Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hi, Jim Olds. My wife and I have properties at 306 South Garfield, 305 South Garfield, 30 East 3rd, and 26 East 3rd. So we can see the sign from all of them. So first of all, thanks to Chairman Cashman about fighting the fight for the materials upgrade, and thank you. Because it's come a long way. We pretty much agree with your assessment on all that stuff, and thanks to the church for hosting the meeting. I think it was pretty productive. One of the things to come out of that was, and it kind of came up tonight too, is again, move the sign northward. Take it out of the historic district. Okay, it's been there for 70 years. Make an improvement to the neighborhood. It's now a historic district. 70 years ago, it wasn't considered a historic district. It's a dangerous corner. I don't know how many people see it during the day, but more distraction is seeing a sign more obvious is probably not a great thing. You would still get lots of visibility if the sign were to be moved northward. It would also get out of the residential district. So that was brought up, and one of the other things that got floated, which was side banner things, and yeah, unfortunately, then we came up with the 192 feet. So the banners are gone. That's a good thing. And you know, other than that, that's about where we're at on that. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, other thoughts, comments?
I had one more comment.
Sure.
The shut-off time, the lighting on the sign, I feel should be 8 o'clock at night because you have bedrooms, you know, in residential district, children. I hope not too many people. I think you would get, enough people would see it by then, but I think you should consider that for one of your changes.
Okay. Jerry?
Steve, once again, you pretty much nailed it on the quality, things that I'm not an expert in, but I agree with the quality concerns you brought up.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Summarizing what you said, so the thinness of the base, is that one of your observations?
I mean, we use thin veneers at times, but I mean, like if you look at the existing base, those are solid, you know, probably 3 to 4 inches nominal units that, in the corners, they interlock. If you see thin veneers used a lot in retail, because it's quick and there's short-term duration, the corners, it's like a joint. It's almost like tile. Even though you're talking about thin, it's not interlocked like a typical masonry unit.
Yeah, and it's not our job to coach or fix or anything, but I do feel like, you know, the community has come together and had a conversation, and there seems to be something of a meeting in the minds. Is there a way that we can say, look, if you make that part thicker and you change this other thing, you had mentioned the cornice, I like it, but I see your point, and it sounds like they've gone through some structural modifications to put the limestone on top. I'm a limestone guy, and it does seem to fit with the church and the horizontal lines of the church. I detect that we're going toward a vote here. Can we help in some way by saying, fix that thin part? I know your observations are on point as well, as are yours. But is there a way we can help here rather than send a team back to the drawing board? Or no?
I mean, on other cases where there's been some minor change, we've made suggestions and made conditions on a vote. But that, I mean, I still have an issue with the fact that it's not a masonry structure. With the sign part, I'm fine with. It's really the masonry structure I'm just really worried is going to be appear cheap. It's not going to be in keeping with its peers. It's a historic building. We know the architect. We know when it was built. It's it was one of the reasons it's a historic district. It's rated significant, not just contributing, but a significant church. And I just think because of those things, I mean, this would be a different ballgame, here where it's in a historic district, but it's not a historic church. But even in this case, I mean, even though that's contemporary, the masonry structure they built matches the architecture of the building.
Yeah, the additional signage pictures, although we're all kind of generally familiar with them, this has been very helpful.
Right, like this one was interesting. I feel like that's a cut, rough limestone, they say cleft limestone base. You can see the cut limestone coping that's on top of the base. that's a typical proportion that would be used, tends to be somewhere between 3.5, 4 inches, a slight overhang, somewhere up to an inch. It gives it a visual termination of that base piece. If that detail, something, is what I was hoping to see when I opened up the package, but instead it's, you know, basically this tiny little band. It's not the even dimension. It's probably, if you compare it to the 1.5 inches and the 2.5 inch, the 2 inches above, it's probably like an inch.
Okay, and I see that 100%.
I mean, you might recall, because you were on this, when United Methodist, Hinsdale United Methodist Church, and we went through, I think this was multiple meetings on this one, because I think with the banners, that was the.
And Eve was 3 meetings,
Right.
I believe.
So that's a masonry structure, you know, with, you know, in their case, I think that, there's a photo here. I thought that was one of the photos.
I've got a photo.
Oh, yeah, right here. So you can see that. I mean, that's truly a masonry structure with, you know, that's their bulletin board, you know, inserted into it. I think it looks permanent, it looks quality.
And they have a compliant banner.
Well, and what they did, they
they got
built it like this so they don't have any
Yeah,
freestanding
because they used to have
temporary
banners over
banners.
that corner, because that's a busy corner. That's 55th in Garfield.
No, I'm with you. I completely understand. I guess I'm trying to help. So your observations are good. Can we
I mean, I was-
suggest or observe to the point where it's helpful to the team that has presented here and gone to the trouble of putting this package together? And can we say, make it more like this?
I mean, I think, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable making comments about how to revise, you know, this sign package, because, you know, there's foundations, this is a pole, you know, it's a sign box with veneer attached to it. If they revised and came back with the drawings that showed that this was a masonry structure with a sign box, this is a terrible look to me. That would be like this wood, you know, podium supporting masonry. It's a oxymoron. It's visually disturbing. As an architect, I mean, it's just.
As a financial analyst, that doesn't bother me.
No,
but,
it's a bridge too far. If I would be fine with something that in keeping with the masonry, the sign box, you know, not a cornice that's trying to look like something it's not. I mean, where's the original drawing?
They did a good job at, I think this one I like.
Well,
Seventh-day
yeah, and
Adventist.
that's kind of where I'm going. is-
Right.
Yeah, right. Like, if you've just eliminated the top, then I think that this portion of the sign becomes significantly better, because it is what it is. It's a metal sign box. It's dark, which tends to make it blur into the background more. This is matte. I think this box itself, I think they're in a good spot. The Calvin of the light, you know, it's not going to be casting out the font. I love our linguist neighbor, which is fantastic. I kind of like the fact that there's, you know, basically this implied cross, then separating 2 lines of text. I think that I really like all that. To me, that is, I guess, cannot live with that. If it, you know, somewhere else in town, the base. So conceptually, but I wouldn't be comfortable voting. I would be comfortable continuing it to see revised drawings, because I want to make sure if this goes forward that I'm like, God, why did I vote for that? It looks terrible. Because once it goes up, they're not going to change the sign. I
Well,
wouldn't
and
want it
the
to.
old sign's been there for 70 years.
Right.
This will be here for
Well,
70
yeah.
years.
It's made out of the
Exactly.
right materials.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, so I would be more in favor of looking to continue versus looking to vote, because I'm just not in a comfortable spot voting for that. You know, Laura LaPaca, who's, you know, she used to be a chair of this group, you know, trustee. I've been with Laura on the District 181 Facility Committee. She wrote me a nice email, and she's very supportive of your cause, and she's very articulate. I told her exactly what because I wanted her, I didn't know who she was talking to, but she reached out to me and said, I'm going to be out of town, but I just want to tell you what my thoughts were. And I told her, I said, the dimensions and everything, the lights, I'm fine with that. It's really the quality of the materials, because that's that's why if these were just administrative things, Bethany could take care of this stuff day in, day out. But what our responsibility is for signs is visual compatibility, quality of design and construction, appropriateness to activity, appropriateness to the site. That's the soft stuff that is what plan commissions do, what we do. And that's really where we get into, because first we look to see, is there any variances? And if there's no variances, okay, that makes it easy. Then we look towards those things. So it's a subjective call, but, you know, if this was, it's such a beautiful church. And I do think, I mean, when I've been there for, you know, funerals and unfortunately, for funerals, mostly. But it's a beautiful church, inside and out. So this, I think, is a great opportunity to take an old sign that's not effective to their cause and today and make it better. I understand, like Jim's comment about maybe moving it up, but I would be worried because you're cresting a hill. That's my concern about it being further up there. I don't think you'd want to go any further than that. I think you're talking about the Circle Drive that's on Garfield, right? Is nowhere closer than where that entry is, the south one. Because you get any further up there, I mean,
You're on the driveway,
yeah,
you're
you
in
wouldn't be
town.
seeing the sign. There's people come, now we get close to the exit out of the parking structure for the middle school. So in the corner, it is a good corner for visibility for a church. And, you know, if they're trying to get their word out, I mean, it's a great corner. You know, I don't know what the traffic counts are, but it's a good corner. So that's where that's my thought is. And
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did an architect, I know these are sign companies that do this, and I know they do this day and night and have to match building styles, but has an architect ever looked at this? Yes. Yes. May I ask who that was? Okay. Are you? Okay.
My husband's an architect. He has a business in Winsdale for years, Geo Architectural Design. And we pared down the rooms.
Sharon, can you come over here because people are not going to be able to hear you. Thank you.
My husband and I worked on this together, and we're both architects. We had many teams look it over, and we pared down. We started with kind of a, I don't know if you guys know on 90, that big prairie stone sign. That's what they all wanted. Okay, so we started with that, and we brought it down to
It's like a half an acre.
what we thought would look better at the church. I'm a little confused because you were pointing up here and we couldn't see, so I want to understand what it is you're talking about. What I think you're saying is the cap and the cornice are unnecessary. The column is also unnecessary.
No.
And the masonry needs to be true masonry, not
The last statement, absolutely correct. True
Right.
masonry. This cornice here that's on top of the sign box, that one really bothers me. If you wanted some type of termination to the box, I would think something that's part of the box. You know, where that's
So
an
that's
open
what we
sign.
had last time, and
Well-
we were told to change it to limestone, so we did.
I mean, I think I wanted this. This was metallic the last time on top of the pole, which I was not happy. I mean, I've seen those. They tend to be in retail. They just don't look good. The quality's not there. I would like this to be masonry, a la. Here's an example. Basically built like this,
Right.
and then the sign box, you could eliminate the cornice and the top, and then the sign box, to me, I'm fine with the sign box.
So originally, the intention was that it would be a masonry sign, a solid masonry sign. The sign company came up with this basically to be able to fit that in, work with what we have there, our electric, et cetera, whatever's underground. We asked them yesterday for a price. We got it tonight of what it would be for masonry. So I know that we can build the sign as is. What they said to us, if we put a limestone cap across, they have to do solid masonry. It won't work with veneer. And so they priced that up. If what you're saying is we don't need that limestone cap across the top, and we just do a base at the bottom that's solid masonry.
Solid masonry
Yep.
here, solid masonry here.
Yeah.
You know, because then like the corners are going to be better details. 'Cause
Yep.
You're not talking just a veneer. You're talking a true masonry structure, just like what's sitting there today. You know, that is a masonry base. You know, that's hewn stone at the bottom, then a cut limestone top.
Right.
You know, in the 70 years it's been sitting there. I think if that was changed and then you eliminated that, I'd love it.
Well, I can tell you today that that's possible and that we
I
can
know
do
it's
that.
possible. Yeah.
But I mean, we have, no, I know you know it's possible, but I mean, we already have that actually talked about and in the works. What we weren't sure of because of the last meeting was having that cap all the way across.
I'm okay with losing that.
I don't think
cap.
it's a problem to do it that way. It's just, you know, it's time and money. It's
Right.
what it is. So.
Well, I want it to be 70 years from now, and I want you guys to have 1,000 members 2 years from now.
Well, and I appreciate the comments, and I feel like it might be important at this point because of the seating comments. I think Cynthia or maybe Julie had comments about seating on that lawn. And I think it might be nice. I think the one in front of the Adventist church has almost a curved, it looks like almost a curved bench. It might be cool to extend that base out a little bit as a seat. We did talk to our garden committee, and we have a member here, about landscaping around the sign, you know, so that we would definitely have plans to do that. We just need to get this done first.
Right.
But I think that there's ways we can make that happen, and we've already talked to the sign company about it, so I don't think that's a big deal.
Right.
We were just going with their suggestion. You know, they're the professionals. They said this is the way to do it, and we said,
I mean, this approach is easier for the sign company because they're basically pouring a foundation, which they always do. They're applying a veneer to their sign box versus if you do a sign like this, they hire a mason.
right,
That
exactly.
basically creates the base, provides the power, you know, they have electrician provide the power, and then they show up with the sign. So this, if you did it a true masonry approach, this would be there before the signs probably shows up. You know, 'cause
Correct.
that guy would build it, it would be all done.
Right, they said they'd have to make 2 trips.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're right. Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, my thing, I really love your church. It's so beautiful. It's such an entry. I mean, when you come up Garfield, I mean, it's really striking. And, I mean, the tower and everything, I just really want this to be done right. I want it to be something that's there forever that, you know, everyone's proud of. And I think you're close, but to me, it's just the details of the construction, the geometry, the size and everything. I appreciate your meeting with the neighbors. I think that was really helpful with the dialogue with them. The other sign was just unfortunate when that showed up. I think that was right before your neighbor meeting, which is
The
probably.
day before,
Yeah.
the day before.
But, you know, it's great that that group was so enthusiastic that they made that stuff. So, I mean, that
Well,
was
we apologize for that. We did call the village. We did say, hey, we have a bunch of kids and teachers, and they don't know the rules, and they don't always know who to check with. And so that's why we're establishing these rules within our church to say, and we're going to come up with standards. We have to. And that was the very most important thing besides the lighting that our neighbor said is you got a mishmash, like this sign's like this sign's over here. So we know we've got to fix that, and we will.
Right. I mean, that down the street at 55th, that was a problem on that corner for
Yes.
quite a while. So that when they came to us, and I think that was at least a few passes with them, was, okay, they really wanted to come up with a way to clean it up and to have a way to always put up, you know, and there's probably always, you know, a temporary sign up there rotating different themes or whatever. But it's nice and clean, and that's an important intersection too, because you're basically coming off of 55th into the residential portion of older Hinsdale.
I appreciate that. We did propose that, and the neighbors were not for having the signs at that corner. So they'd rather have us push it up north, which respectfully will
They felt it
we'll
was
do that.
just more signage.
Too much, making that corner, you know, the sign too big.
Right.
So
I mean,
how do
would you be
we?
opposed to us continuing this to next month so you could come back with the revised drawings?
Is there a way that we can send revised drawings, and that you approve it based on the comments tonight?
And not really, because we're not proving anything administratively. I mean, this would really need to come back to the PC. The advantage is we'd probably have, you know, a bigger group back. I mean, Pat's was gone. We knew we were going to miss him. I didn't know about Anna.
Steve, I would also like to hear some more too, what they come up with their plans for temporary signage. Maybe you'll have an idea then.
And I think Jerry's point too, I don't know how extensive the policy is going to be, a sentence, a paragraph, or 20 pages, but it'd be nice if you said, and here's our new policy.
Oh, because I think for your neighbors'
So would the
concerns-
approval of this new design sign be also based on our new,
No, the two separate, this permit you're in for is for this sign. I really want to separate. I understand the concerns, and I'm glad that you guys talked about it with the neighbors and that Julie's expressed that, but I think that would just be a contributing thing, but it's not part of the package. We're talking about this sign on the corner.
because I don't know, you guys, churches don't work that fast. So if we're meant to come back here next month with a
Exactly.
whole policy
Yeah.
in order to get this approved, we're
I
going
think
to
if you
need more than
continue your
that.
discussions, I appreciate the fact that you've already started that, and then you just report back, you know, where you're at. And then I think that's all good because, you know, the neighbors will hear that, it'll be part of the record, and the village is obviously, this is not just unique to you guys. These temporary signs have been a challenge, whether they're window decals, I mean, this has been going on for a long time. So it's not just you.
I'm gonna get one of those, like,
Oh, yeah, that's-
come to church.
flip it or fly.
You know, it might
Or
be,
specifically.
That's what I know y'all want.
it would be helpful too if you could leave like a contact name and number for any of the neighbors if they have any
I
questions.
thought that's you.
Sharon already dove on the
They,
grenade.
they have it, they
Oh,
have
no,
it.
I don't
They have my
have it.
email.
I don't have it. I think the other neighbors don't, so.
Oh.
I think Nancy has it.
We'll make
And
sure we get
See,
them.
my problem is when I call the church, sometimes it's a volunteer, sometimes it's Penny Johnson, but just like in the past year, I've had to call the police with illegal stuff going on in the parking lot at night, which I don't mind doing. I have
I mean,
had to
good that you're calling.
close the door on the south side of the
Thank
church.
you. We've,
geez.
Has been left wide open
Jeez.
and there's no cars in the parking lot, so I go over and close it. Sometimes the lights in the parking lot stay on all night, or sometimes they go on at 3 in the morning.
whenever we have a power outage, our
Exactly.
system doesn't reset properly, and we have to manually do it.
Well, it would be nice to have because sometimes, like, whenever I talk to somebody at the church, messages don't, it's a volunteer organization, they don't always get to the right person.
Right.
So it'd be nice if there was,
You can call me, I'll do my best.
okay. I'm
Also
sure
a
you will.
volunteer.
Now we know.
Did you wanna?
Before the next meeting, if you could work with Bethany to clarify exactly how many square feet of banner you can have on the property too, and then come back to us with that and tell us you're working on a policy so that people won't exceed that as banners, that would be great. We all know 192 is not the right answer, but we need to find out the right answer.
Again, we apologize.
Oh, that's all right. No, that was well-intentioned, and it's a great message. Next time, yeah, they need to paint on fabric.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, there was, I mean, that was a big project they did, so.
Yeah, they worked on it all week. There was a
I'm
bunch
sure
of
they
kids.
did.
It was really cute
It was a
watching
lot
them
of
do
pay.
it. We didn't know they were gonna put it outside like that, but
Right.
anyway. Anything else? We have to continue it. I guess we wanna ask for a continuance.
Okay, and sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your patience, too. This is going to end up, we will get there. Do I have a motion to continue
Move to
case
continue?
A-10-2021 for 137 South Garfield Street to our
September 8th.
September 8th Plan Commission meeting.
I move to continue?
Second.
May we have a roll call vote, please, Bethany?
Commissioner Curry,
Aye.
Commissioner Krillenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Aye.
Commissioner Cernovich,
Aye.
Chairman Cashman.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much. No other business?
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
I think you're moving towards a unanimous vote.
Yes.